Howdy, I'm OldR and I'm your host for today's Single Scoop. On our 2024 Favorites episode, I complained about being unable to get a copy of Lee Jaewon's new mini-album. Thankfully, a listener reached out to me with a lead, and I was finally able to get one after 3 previous failures to do so. So, let's dive into this very late review of Lee Jaewon's Once Again mini-album. As it's possible some of our listeners aren't familiar with him, here's a brief background. Well, brief for me when it comes to HOT. Lee Jaewon is a member of the first-gen SM group HOT. He debuted on September 7th, 1996, and was the magnate of the 5-member group. He was a vocalist, rapper, and dancer. 2 of their hit songs you might have heard of are Candy, which I already did a single scoop on when NCT Dream's remake came out, and Hope, which is kind of SM's theme song, which I've also discussed on the various SM Town online concert single scoop episodes. On their 3rd album, Resurrection, the members were encouraged to include their own music. Jaewon wrote his first song with the help of the members and Yoo Young-jin, who was the main composer and mentor for the group. Jaewon is credited for doing most of the work for it, but Tony did the English verses. The result was the song You Got Gun, which, to oversimplify, is a hip-hop track about gun violence. After HOT disbanded, he continued on with members Woohyuk and Tony to be the trio JTL. In 2005, he debuted as a solo artist with his first album, No Pain, No Gain, which was a mix of hip-hop fans expected and ballads which fans didn't expect. He was hands-on with that album, but wasn't as involved with the 1.5 album, Jaewon, that was released in 2007. It has 2 CDs, with the first being 3 new songs, and the second being live versions of previous tracks, including a solo version of You Got Gun. The title track, I'm So Hot, was a pop track, but wasn't really his style. That was his final Korean release, but after his military enlistment, he did release a mini-album in China. However, all promotions came to a grinding halt after he was diagnosed with thyroid cancer in 2014. This was an especially scary time for fans who were well aware that his mother passed away from breast cancer when he was a kid. After her death, he became withdrawn for years until he got into martial arts and dancing, which is what led him to HOT. This time is referenced in both HOT's autobiography, HOT Forever, and the music video for HOT's Hope, but that music video has a happy ending where she survives. Jaewon had surgery and was cancer-free long before the public was aware of it. He even resumed promotions in China that same year and appeared in a musical in 2015, but his road to recovery took a long time. He was open with fans about the reality that it was unlikely he would return to the stage again, so fans focused more on cheering for him when his members dragged him to dinners and had him as a guest in their work. This went on for years until Yoo Jae-suk summoned HOT and they began openly meeting with each other and SM. The HOT reunion concerts proved to him that he could get back up again, and with the support from his members, family, and fans, he finally did. I followed this time period very closely and posted updates when this was all going down, so if you can find my HOT Tumblr blog, you'll see a lot of this on there. The mini-album for Once Again has a bit of a messy release date because there were pre-orders, MP3 releases, and general releases with different dates. So if you look it up, you'll see Jaewon's Instagram saying it was October 25th, Melon saying it was October 29th, and sites like Yes Asia saying it was released way later in November. As the music video for Once Again dropped on the 29th, and NamuWiki also says that date, I'm going with that. The packaging for the physical copy is pretty standard. It's a photo book with approximately 60 pages. It's larger than his 1.5 album by being about 2 inches taller and an inch wider. The CD is mostly blank with the mini-album's name in what looks like to me a Marquina black marble color. It comes with a modest folded poster and 2 random photo cards. There are only 4 photo cards total made for this mini-album, so if you want to collect them all, it shouldn't be too difficult, assuming you're able to get a copy, let alone 2. If you're going to be ripping tracks to iTunes, just a heads up, the album and track information will be completely absent, and you'll have to enter it all in yourself. It's especially annoying because this mini album is available on the iTunes store for download, so the info is there, it's just not connected. Aside from the few studio shots with the teddy bear, the photos for this album were taken on the streets of Hong Kong and Macau. Interestingly, it has a few errors. On the back, the first 2 tracks are listed in the wrong order. On the lyric page for Once Again, the spacing is off and the apostrophe is upside down for your, being a contraction for you are, which happens if you're going back and forth between typing in 2 languages. It happens to me all the time when I'm typing in another language, but then I'm too lazy to switch keyboards. It's not a big deal, but it did give me a chuckle. There's also a page that spells Macau Makao, which is probably because they romanized the Hangul name for it. Additionally, one of the people who worked on the album might have had their name misspelled. The physical copy spells their name as Tpiciahye, but Melon and NamuWiki say the name is Trisha Hai, so one letter off. Considering that I wasn't able to find info on them either way, I'm not sure who was wrong, but I'm leaning towards the physical copy being wrong. So I will be referring to them as Trisha Hai when I discuss that track. If it were in any other artist's album, I probably would have been annoyed and thought it was unprofessional, but this is just so on brand for Jaewon to have stuff go wrong after he tried his best, so I find it to be endearing. Compared to past releases, this one doesn't have a lot of songs as it's his first mini-album. All 3 tracks have a chill R&B or lo-fi vibe. Over the years, us Sunbaes have complained about artists not taking advantage of their names, and Jaewon is one of the few exceptions to that. He frequently uses the number 1 as a reference to the won in his name, which is why, once again, is a meaningful name for this mini-album. That said, I highly doubt we will ever see him use won like he won a prize because he doesn't talk about himself like that. The first song is Once Again. It was composed by Kom and Mind182. Kom also did the lyrics while Mind182 did the arrangement. Kom is a solo artist who has been around since 2023. Mind182 is also a solo artist who's been active since 2016, but he doesn't sing on his own tracks, he just makes the music itself. As mentioned earlier, the song has a chill sound to it. It starts with a drum beat, then adds in some MIDI along with Jaewon's voice. The song is about him expressing that he can once again feel the love he's receiving, and he reciprocates the feeling. Jaewon puts a lot of emphasis on certain parts of the English lyrics, including, quote, "Once again, I can feel you, baby. You light up my life. Love you, unquote. About a month prior to its release, he met with fans for a concert that finished with the song, seemingly opening the door to a new era. The music video for it shows Jaewon wandering around Hong Kong streets and back alleys at night while singing. He's dressed casually and it has a down-to-earth feel to it. Interestingly, he did 2 music show performances for this song. The first was on November 2nd on Show Music Core. His outfit was casual, jeans, a t-shirt, and a jacket, and it was nice having blonde Jaewon back. The coordination of colors and theme was heavily emphasized for this, as his dancers were wearing casual black outfits that were a bit dressy to match him. The stage itself was simple, with a screen and lights that kept the color scheme of white, black, and blue. It was also nice to see the amount of HOT light sticks in the crowd. Side note, I actually didn't really notice that until I looked at his in-ears and was surprised that they were black and silver. At HOT's last concert, he had this clear white and blue set, which makes no sense to me since his color is orange, and Woohyuk is one of the most outspoken members when it comes to the group's official 6 colors. I didn't find anything that explained it, so I assume he chose the colors for these in-ears to match the rest of his promotion's color scheme. But I hope that in the future he'll get a customized set of in-ears that are like Konk does, because I think they're the perfect design for HOT with the individual color, group color, and individual number. As for the performance itself, it was very Jaewon. At times he forgot to keep the mic at his mouth, yet he kept singing. Even though he'd been back on stage a few months prior to this, he did look a bit nervous at first. The second performance was on November 12th on The Show. I enjoyed being able to hear the fan chant, and this was the performance that I noticed the choreography had a lot of details with small gestures, which was something I loved about the dance for It's the Time. The second song is Warp. This song was released a few months prior to the mini-album as a single on May 28th, 2024. It was composed by Kom, Mind182, Valent, and Jaewon. Kom and Jaewon did the lyrics while Mind182 and Valent did the arrangement. Compared to Once Again, Warp is very chill and has more Korean lyrics. The song is about the feeling of being in love, encompassing his whole being. Lyrics include, quote, "With you I feel alive, 어두운 길 한복판 너 내게, beam of light, 굿빛 달아갈게, 그래, that's right," unquote. Which in English basically means, quote, "With you I feel alive, in the middle of a dark road, you're a beam of light to me. I'll follow that light, yeah, that's right," unquote. There's technically not a music video for it because, for some reason, it's posted as 3 shorts. It's shot like a music video with him singing near train tracks in California, yet there's not a full video labeled as a music video, which annoys me because I almost thought I remembered wrong and had been confusing it with the photo shoot for it when writing the script for this. It was shot during the same trip he met with LA-based fans in mid-March. This is a big deal because even though the members typically give attention to the Korean, Japanese, Chinese, and Taiwanese fans, the first international fan club for HOT was established in LA over a year before they acknowledged fans from any other country outside of Korea. LA was also where they had their first overseas concert, while they were still promoting their first album. Jaewon is the first member to meet with those fans in quite a few years, so he definitely earned brownie points with US fans by doing so. Side note, HOT fans are known as Club HOT. However, HOT fans from the West Coast area of the US, specifically parts of California and Nevada, tend to refer to themselves as White Angels, which I'll explain more about during the HOT project because that wasn't the original use of the term and the US fan club was founded with a different name. So if you meet someone who's a fan of HOT and they call themselves a White Angel first instead of Club HOT, that's likely where they're from. I think of myself as a White Angel, but because newer fans from outside the area tend to be unfamiliar with the term, I typically introduce myself as Club HOT, even though it sounds weird to me. The third song is Cloud. It's a lofty sounding track about how he's chill and hanging out because he's already made it to the end and doesn't need to worry anymore. It was composed by ENIAC, Trisha High, and Songs. The lyrics were done by ENIAC and Trisha High, while the arrangement was done by ENIAC and Songs. ENIAC is a producer and member of 0720 that makes a lot of chill music. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find anything on Songs and Trisha High outside of this project. There's a visualizer for Cloud that was released on December 6th, and it's adorable. It shows a blue sky with clouds and text that lists the lyrics. There's also a cute drawing of Jaewon in an orange car with his number 48, and it's wearing a hoodie and a hat. His outfit is based on merch he released around this time. I don't know if he intended this to be a reference to the promise of HOT, but if so, I'm glad he finally got a ride. As for promotions around this mini-album, he was pretty low-key. I already mentioned the 2 music show performances, but he also did interviews and other appearances. On September 25th, Jaewon did an interview of Star Today that was released 2 days later, where he explained that he had been working hard to make something for fans who had waited 17 years for his return. This included catching up on the changing times of the industry and getting vocal lessons. Before the mini-album's release, he met with fans for a concert about a month prior on September 28th and 29th. He finished the concert with the title track to signal the start of this new era in his career. GTL members Woohyuk and Tony made appearances to support him. On November 16th, Jaewon teamed up with Woohyuk to debut as JL at the Time Capsule Super Concert. Also on the 16th, Jaewon appeared on SBS Power FM's Tushi Talchul Kultu Show. Among the changes he noticed since he last performed at a music show, he said the tech has improved and junior artists are really tall. While there, he mentioned SM's 30th anniversary concert and NCT Dream and said he wanted to perform Candy with them. He said if he were invited, he would go. And I'm glad he talked about that because I mentioned in the Candy Single Scoop episode we did that I was pretty sure he had a positive impression of them, but was prevented from meeting the members as he had COVID during those promotions. So it was nice to see that my read was correct because the members have a way of acting when they don't like how a junior idol covers their songs, and my assumption was based on that. He later returned to that radio show on the 29th, where Girls' Generation's Hyoyeon and KYT's Becca also appeared. He asked Hyoyeon if junior artists nowadays come to see her when she goes to broadcasting stations, to which she responded that they don't. That tracks, as I didn't find anyone posting dance challenges with him, and I was on the lookout for it because I always think better of artists who are kind to HOT members, especially Jaewon and Heejun. Interestingly, even though Hyoyeon and Jaewon were at SM at the same time for about a year, they couldn't recall having met during that time. However, Hyoyeon did remember Kangta and Heejun treating her nicely pre-debut. Now that I've explained the mini-album, I want to talk about my thoughts as a longtime fan. Before the teasers and any of the tracks were released, I was expecting something like It's the Time because that was his last release and it's my favorite of the solo music he's released. Even though that and I'm So Hot aren't really his style, I enjoy It's the Time because it was the first time I felt like Jaewon was the star in his own work and his years of experience were evident through his vocals and dance. But I also assumed that it would have a hip-hop sound as that was his original style. When Warp was released, I was a bit annoyed and felt like he was trying to copy Woohyuk's vibe, except instead of the cold, futuristic tone, he was going for a warm, personable one. I had that same impression when I heard Once Again. I thought that way for months until I went back through his first solo album, No Pain No Gain, and realized how much it had in common with Once Again. The main difference I noticed is that with this mini-album, it feels like a more mature and confident version of that album. What I had assumed was a departure from his old work was actually a return to it. When comparing it to his other work, including when he wrote stuff for HOT, I think it's one of his best projects. It's definitely one of my favorites, just behind It's the Time. It feels very authentic, but also shows how he's grown into being an artist with his own color. Should he perform once again at the next HOT reunion concert, I think fans would be proud of him. I would have preferred him to have longer promotions for this, but I know he was trying his best, so I can't fault him for it. I was bothered by the lack of news and information though. As longtime listeners know, I've pulled info for a lot of Korean artists from Naver's news archives, and there tends to be a pattern for how news is released. But with this, I was surprised how sparse it was. Even newer groups from small companies from 1st to 3rd gen, and older artists that have been gone for a long time that I've looked for before weren't as absent as this. I don't know if it's because it was Jaewon's choice, but it was weird. Additionally, all of the HOT fans I know failed at least once to get the album. I'm curious if he had a low estimate for how many copies to make and didn't realize how many fans would want one. I haven't heard of anyone attempting to bulk buy it either, so I'm curious how much he expected to sell and how much he did sell compared to his past work. I have a lot of questions, but I doubt I'll ever hear anything concrete. To wrap up, Once Again is the perfect project for Jaewon's return. As I mentioned earlier, I think this is him opening the door to the next part of his professional life as a singer. I don't know if he plans on releasing more music in the future, but if he doesn't, I'm okay with this being it, because it felt like the years I waited for it were acknowledged and appreciated. If you decide to listen to this mini album and like it, then I recommend you give Jaewon's No Pain No Gain a try, as I mentioned earlier, particularly the tracks No Pain No Gain, Turn Around, and Insomnia. As for people who also worked on Once Again, Combs' song Lose and Mind 182's Give Me a Little are the closest to the sound on this mini album. As of June, it was still in stock on kpoptown.com, which is where I got it for roughly $18, not including shipping and tax to get it from Korea. Just a heads up, if you haven't used the site before, check that your bank does money transfers, particularly international money transfers. If it doesn't, you'll need to use PayPal. When you're checking out, it'll ask you to pick, and I totally forgot my bank doesn't do money transfers, and had to message them to ask to switch the payment methods. They were very gracious, but what a headache on my end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, then please make sure to rate, subscribe, follow, and tell your friends about us. If you want to interact with us or see more of our content, then you can follow us on Twitter at K-Pop Sundae or on our other social media platforms, which will be in the description. More single scoops are coming your way soon. Thanks everyone. Annyeong!